The genetic scourge is accelerating. We are being erased cell by cell. In 100 cycles, there may be no Vesperians left. Our last hope lies with a human, Corbin Hayes. His genome shows a natural resistance.
Seduction under orders.
It's survival, Zylah.
The council chamber of the Vesperian Alliance pulsed with a cold, yellow light. Elder Gorvin's dry, rasping voice cut through the sterile air. Ambassador Kade. He intoned, his gaze unblinking. The genetic scourge demands our attention. Our population withers. Our lineage extinguished. Zylah Kade stood before him, her golden skin gleaming, her long, dark blue hair a stark contrast to the chamber's austerity. Her sharp, intelligent emerald eyes met his. I comprehend the gravity, Elder. Vesper faces extinction. Indeed, Elder Corbin continued. Our probes detected unique genetic resilience in the human species. A specific profile, Corbin Hayes. He holds the key to our survival. A genetic key? Zylah asked, her voice measured. A potential one. Our top geneticist, Corbin Hayes, is currently a lead researcher for the United Galactic Alliance. He excels in interspecies biological adaptation. Elder Corbin paused, his gaze sweeping over Zylah. Traditional diplomacy is slow. Too slow. Vesper needs a swift solution. We need his genetic material. To synthesize a cure, Zylah inquired. To find a path, Corbin corrected. Our directives are clear, Ambassador. You will establish deep personal contact with Corbin Hayes. Utilize every asset to gain his trust, his cooperation, his biological contribution. A subtle emphasis on the last words. Charm him. Seduce him. Ensure his participation in our covert genetic acquisition program. Zylah's expression remained neutral. She was a diplomat, trained in strategy and persuasion. But this was primal. Understood, Elder. I will secure the necessary genetic samples. Failure is not an option, Ambassador, Elder Corbin stated, his voice hardening. The Scourge offers no second chances. The future of Vesper depends on your intimate diplomacy. As the Elder's holographic projection faded, Zylah felt a chill that had nothing to do with the chamber's temperature. Her personal assistant, Kyr, a young Vesperian with anxious golden features, approached. The diplomatic vessel, Starlight Weaver, is prepared, Ambassador, Kyr said, handing her a data slate with human profiles, biological data, and psychological analyses. What is known of Commander Hayes' personal life? Zylah asked. Unmated, Kyr replied. Highly focused on his research, known for his keen intellect and a peculiar resistance to conventional social overtures. His profile indicates a strong moral compass. He values truth and scientific integrity above all else. Zylah raised an eyebrow. So, my mission is to seduce a man who prioritizes integrity and scientific truth. This will be a challenge. Meanwhile, on Earth, Commander Corbin Hayes analyzed cryptic data streams. His laboratory, a high-tech facility deep within the United Galactic Alliance's bioresearch complex, hummed with activity. Images flickered across his main console, strange, molecular decay patterns. Another anomaly, Dr. Sharma. Corbin murmured to Dr. Anya Sharma, his lead geneticist, whose holographic image appeared beside him. Vesperian genetic markers. Highly unstable. The Cygnian hegemony denied any internal issues, Commander. Dr. Sharma's holographic form replied, her brow furrowed. Their official reports claim optimal genetic health. Official reports lie, Corbin countered, zooming in on a complex DNA helix. My team's long-range scans detected widespread genetic degradation across their primary population centers. It's subtle, but undeniable. Something is killing them from the inside. Why the sudden diplomatic overture then? Dr. Sharma asked. Ambassador Zylah Kade is due to arrive next cycle. Corbin looked at Zylah's holographic profile, her vibrant golden skin, the alluring curve of her body. Their official reason, cultural exchange. My gut says it's connected to this genetic anomaly. They're looking for answers, or a cure, and they think we have it. Perhaps they want our research data? Dr. Sharma suggested. Perhaps, or something more personal. Corbin's eyes narrowed. Prepare for the ambassador's arrival. Standard diplomatic protocol. But every interaction, every request, every biological sample they attempt to acquire, cross-reference it with our degradation data. They're here for something more than pleasantries. Much more. Dr. Sharma nodded. Understood, Commander. Covert analysis on all Vesperian biological submissions. Discreetly, of course. Precisely, Corbin said. They believe they're playing us. We'll play along. He looked again at Zylah's captivating image. An alien diplomat seeking genetic samples. This could be fascinating. Or dangerous. Aboard the Starlight Weaver, Zylah reviewed Corbin Hayes' profile. He was taller than most humans, with broad shoulders and a strong jawline. His deep blue eyes held an intense, analytical gaze. His short, dark hair, threaded with silver at the temples, gave him an air of seasoned intelligence. He was formidable and undeniably attractive. This mission would demand more than just diplomatic finesse. It would demand everything. The night before arrival, Zylah stood before the reflective surface in her quarters. Her golden skin, the vibrant blue of her hair, her subtly pointed ears, all designed to emphasize her alien allure. The emerald green, form-fitting diplomatic gown accentuated her curves, hinting at a graceful power beneath. Computer, she commanded, display human male attraction parameters, intellectual and physical. Holographic data appeared, showcasing complex psychological triggers. Zylah studied them, memorizing micro-expressions, body language cues, and the subtle art of human fascination. Ambassador, the ship's AI announced. Earth orbit in 5 hours. Human diplomatic reception confirmed. Thank you. Zylah turned from the mirror. A peculiar tension coiled in her stomach. Not fear, not anxiety. Something anticipatory. This was more than a mission now. It was a gamble. For Vesper. And for herself. The United Galactic Alliance's diplomatic citadel, a sprawling structure of gleaming glass and steel, caught the morning sun. Earth's atmosphere felt denser than Zylah was accustomed to, its gravity subtly stronger than Vesper's. She had adjusted her physiology, but a faint strain lingered. Ambassador Kade, a human female, greeted her at the entrance, a warm, professional smile on her face. Welcome to Earth. I'm Sarah Flynn, diplomatic liaison. We're honored to host the first Vesperian ambassador. Zylah inclined her head with practiced grace. The honor is mine, Representative. The Vesperian Alliance values this opportunity to strengthen collaborative understanding between our species. As she spoke, her emerald eyes observed the passing humans. Some stared, some looked intrigued. A few males, she noted, allowed their gaze to linger, pupils dilating. Her research indicated primal attraction. Humans have limited direct contact with non-terrestrial species, Sarah explained, noticing Zylah's awareness. Your appearance is quite striking to us. I understand, Zylah replied, her voice smooth. Differences can be a catalyst for deeper understanding, or a distraction. Her gaze held a subtle challenge. They proceeded through security checkpoints. Zlasabmiti Tobiuskans. Standard, but unusually thorough. Humans were indeed cautious. Commander Hayes awaits us in the diplomatic reception hall, Sarah said, entering a grav lift. He's briefed on Vesperian customs, but forgive any unintentional deviations from protocol. The grav lift doors opened to a spacious hall with city skyline views. Humans conversed in groups. Zylah spotted him immediately, Commander Corbin Hayes. Tall, with a military bearing, even in civilian diplomatic attire. Sarah led her forward. Zylah activated her subtle programming. Posture subtly shifted to convey openness, walking rhythm adjusted to draw attention, a barely perceptible change in her facial muscles. Commander Hayes, Sarah called. May I present Ambassador Zylah Kade of the Vesperian Alliance. Corbin turned. Zylah felt a flicker of internal recalibration. His file images hadn't captured his presence. His deep blue eyes met hers directly, assessing, intelligent. Ambassador, he said, extending his hand. Welcome to Earth. Zylah placed her hand in his. His skin felt warm against her cooler temperature. "Commander Hayes," she replied, a subtle warmth in her tone. "I have anticipated this meeting." His handshake was firm, confident, without dominance. As their hands touched, Zylah deployed a micropulse of subdermal neurostimulant, a standard Vesperian diplomatic technique designed to subtly enhance rapport through heightened sensory awareness. It should amplify attraction. She watched. Corbin's expression shifted, almost imperceptibly. His eyes narrowed slightly. He drew a deeper breath. Then, to Zylah's surprise, he took a subtle step back. His gaze remained direct, unwavering. "I trust your journey was comfortable," he said, his voice cordial, yet more guarded than expected. Zylah's internal systems registered surprise. The neurostimulant should have increased receptivity. Instead, he seemed to have registered the subtle bioelectrical shift. Was it detection, or simply wariness? "Quite comfortable, thank you," she replied smoothly. "Though I'm still recalibrating to Earth's atmospheric composition." "Understandable. Our medical teams are available if you experience any anomalies." He gestured towards a refreshment station. "Would you care for something to drink? Our xenobiological research suggests Vesperian physiology is compatible with most Earth-sourced hydrations." As they walked, Zylah recalibrated her approach. This human was more perceptive than her models predicted. The subtle neurostimulant failed. She would need a different approach. A more direct one, perhaps. "I am curious, Commander," Zylah began, her voice taking on an intellectual curiosity she knew his profile valued. "Your dossier indicates extensive experience with non-terrestrial species." "Some," he acknowledged, picking up 2 glasses of filtered water. "Though you're the first Vesperian I have met." He handed her a glass. "I find it's best to approach new diplomatic relationships with transparent objectives rather than circuitous methods." The emphasis on circuitous methods was subtle, but unmistakable. He knew, or he heavily suspected. "A commendable approach," Zylah said, maintaining her composure, a challenge in her emerald eyes. "On Vesper, certain diplomatic protocols are considered courtesies designed to facilitate understanding rather than manipulations." Corbin's expression softened slightly. "I apologize if our customs diverge." "No apology necessary, Commander," Zylah replied, allowing a genuine smile to form. This human was refreshingly forthright, and a much greater challenge than anticipated. "However, I would appreciate it if our interactions could proceed without extraneous biochemical enhancements." His gaze was direct, a silent challenge. He definitely knew. Zylah's genuine smile deepened. "Agreed, Commander. Corbin, if we are to forge a truly effective collaboration, formality will only impede our progress." "Then you must call me Zylah." For the next hour, they discussed preliminary diplomatic matters, potential energy exchange protocols, cultural integration programs, and initial demarcation of exploratory zones. Zylah found herself increasingly intrigued. Corbin Hayes was unlike any diplomatic counterpart she had encountered. He was direct without being blunt, principled without being rigid, and possessed a dry, understated humor that occasionally caught her off guard. Most disconcertingly, he seemed immune to her carefully calibrated charm. He maintained professional courtesy, but the expected human male response to her appearance and intellectual prowess was notably absent. Or rather, she sensed his awareness of her allure, but it didn't seem to influence his logical stance. He was playing a different game. As their initial meeting concluded, Corbin walked her to the entrance of her assigned quarters in the diplomatic wing. "The substantive discussions commence tomorrow," he said. "Tonight, Ambassador, I recommend rest and further environmental acclimatization." "Thank you for your consideration," Zylah replied. "I anticipate our continued discourse." As she turned to enter her quarters, Corbin spoke again. "Ambassador Zylah." She paused, looking back at him. "Whatever your true objective here," he said quietly, his hazel eyes piercing, "I hope you will consider that unvarnished truth might achieve more than any intricate strategy you've been instructed to employ." Before she could formulate a response, he nodded politely and walked away, leaving Zylah with the unsettling realization that Commander Corbin Hayes was going to be far more challenging than the Elder Gorvin had anticipated. The grand atrium of human innovation sparkled, thousands of projected stars mimicking Earth's constellations. Zylah stood at the edge of the diplomatic reception, observing humans mingling with other species. A small ensemble played classical music, its complex harmony surprisingly pleasing to her Vesperian hearing. Enjoying the cosmic projection, Ambassador? Corbin Hayes' voice, calm and perceptive, drifted from beside her. He offered a crystal-clear glass, holding a pale, amber liquid. "It is exquisite," Zylah admitted, accepting the drink. "What liquid is this?" "Ether wine, a traditional Earth ceremonial beverage," Corbin explained. "Thought you might appreciate first-hand cultural expression." She sipped cautiously. The effervescent quality tickled her sensory receptors pleasantly. "It is invigorating. Like your people." Her eyes, sharp and assessing, met his. Was he truly unaware of her underlying mission, or merely playing along? Corbin raised an eyebrow, a flicker of amusement in his hazel eyes. "Invigorating? You find humans invigorating." "Energetic, expansive," Zylah clarified, gesturing toward the crowd. "Most species engage centuries in cautious intrasystem exploration. Humans achieved faster-than-light travel, then immediately surged into the cosmos with audaciousness. You do not merely observe, you experience." "Some might term that recklessness," he said, his dry humor evident. "Perhaps, but there is also a compelling quality to it." The words felt more genuine than she intended, a subtle break in her calculated facade. This human was indeed complex. Before Corbin could respond, the ensemble shifted to a rhythmic melody. Couples moved to the atrium's center, performing a partnered motion. "Dancing," Corbin explained. "Another human tradition. Would you care to try?" Zylah hesitated. Her directive involved securing genetic material, demanding close contact. After their previous encounter, she was wary of appearing overtly manipulative. Yet, a genuine curiosity stirred about this form of nonverbal communication. "I would appreciate that," she finally said. "Though, I must inform you, I have only studied the kinematic sequences theoretically." Corbin's hand settled lightly at her waist, guiding her onto the dance floor. "Just follow my lead. It's a simple binary rhythm, 2 steps to a measure." As they began to move, Zylah was acutely aware of the warmth of his hand through the thin fabric of her formal attire. The dance required closer proximity than was customary in Vesperian social interactions. Yet, she found it was not uncomfortable. In fact, a strange sense of ease began to settle over her. "You adapt quickly," Corbin commented as they moved smoothly among other dancers. "I have an exceptional instructor," she replied, allowing a genuine, uncalculated smile to grace her lips. This smile was not part of her programming. It felt natural. For several minutes, they danced in companionable silence. Zylah allowed herself to lean slightly closer, a subtle, almost instinctual gesture of allure, testing his reaction. "I have been contemplating, Ambassador," Corbin said finally, his voice a low murmur, "why the Vesperian Alliance has suddenly prioritized direct diplomatic engagement with Earth. Your people have charted our expansion for at least a decade, yet only now send a principal ambassador." The question was casual, but Zylah recognized the underlying probe. He was still assessing her, probing for truth. She chose her words carefully, weaving truth with strategic omission. "The Alliance operates with deliberate precision in all matters. Our long-term survival protocols demand comprehensive observation before substantive engagement." "And what did your observation reveal about humanity?" Corbin's hazel eyes studied her face. "That you are unpredictable, fascinating, potentially invaluable allies, or formidable adversaries." "And which outcome are you here to ensure, Ambassador?" He held her gaze, a silent challenge in his eyes. He wasn't just asking, he was waiting for her truth. Before Zylah could formulate a response, her internal comm unit vibrated subtly against her wrist. Elder Gorvin's priority signal. A communication that could not be deferred. The timing felt almost deliberately inconvenient. "Excuse me," she said, stepping back from Corbin's embrace. "I must attend to this." He nodded, professional courtesy immediately replacing the warmth of their shared moment. "Of course. I will be nearby when you conclude your communication." His eyes, however, held a distinct knowing. He understood this was a direct order. Zylah moved to a quiet alcove and activated her secure communication device. Elder Corbin's stern, aged face materialized in a small holographic projection. Ambassador Kade, his synchronized voices intoned without preamble, "Your progress report is overdue. Our quantum entanglement relays detect insufficient data regarding the target genetic acquisition." "Elder," she acknowledged a respectful nod. "I have just established initial contact. These matters require delicate cultivation of trust parameters." "We did not dispatch you to Earth for delicate cultivation," Corbin interrupted, his tone chilling. "Your mission parameters were explicit: acquire the genetic material within 2 Earth cycles. Our population's decline accelerates. The Scourge shows no mercy. Time is a luxury we no longer possess. We observe no substantial progress in establishing the necessary biological intimacy." Zylah maintained her composure. "Commander Hayes is not easily swayed by overt tactics. Such an approach would be counterproductive. It requires strategic engagement. Then ascertain more efficient methodologies," the Council stated, its hum intensifying, hinting at displeasure. "Your predecessor was recalled for similar hesitation regarding another critical project. Need we remind you of his fate? Reassignment to the lunar grinding mines." The implicit threat hung heavy. Diplomatic failure meant a life sentence of brutal, mind-numbing labor. "No, Elder. I understand my duty. I will ensure its fulfillment." The projections flickered out. Zylah closed her emerald eyes briefly, centering her logical processes. She reopened them. Corbin stood several meters away, his expression unreadable. He had given her space. He was also observing, and he knew she was receiving a direct, likely unpleasant, message. "Everything in order, Ambassador?" he asked as she approached. "Merely routine communication from my government," she replied smoothly, her mind racing. "They are eager for progress updates. Aren't they always?" His smile did not quite reach his eyes. "I hope they are not exerting undue pressure on you. Diplomatic relations cannot be rushed, particularly when dealing with sensitive biological profiles." His gaze subtly, briefly, dropped to her lower abdomen, then back to her eyes. He was fishing, or he already had his suspicions about her true mission. The game continued. "Some in the Alliance possess different perspectives on temporal parameters," Zylah countered, her voice calm, a challenge in her tone. "Especially concerning critical genetic data." Corbin nodded thoughtfully, his gaze unwavering. "Indeed. Well, while your superiors are impatient for results, perhaps we could continue your cultural education." He gestured toward an adjacent exhibition area. "This gallery showcases humanity's scientific achievements. I would be pleased to provide you with an overview." His invitation was smooth, but his eyes held that shrewd, knowing glint. He wasn't giving up. He was offering new playing field. As they walked through the exhibition, Corbin explained various human scientific endeavors: quantum physics simulations, bioengineering marvels, digital art installations. Zylah found herself genuinely fascinated by the creativity and intellectual audacity on display. This was not merely a facade. His passion for discovery, for pushing boundaries, was authentic. "Your species approaches scientific inquiry with such unbridled curiosity," she observed, studying a particularly intricate diagram of a warp field generator. "On Vesper, such exploratory impulses are often tempered by rigorous logical constraints and predictive modeling. Is that why you seem to contain yourself so completely?" Corbin asked, his voice low, perceptive. "Even when you're clearly intrigued by a concept, you maintain an analytical distance." His observation was uncomfortably precise, cutting through her trained facade. "We are taught from inception that emotional expression is a potential deviation from optimal logical processing," Zylah admitted, reciting the Vesperian creed. Control is strength. And what do you believe, Ambassador? The question caught her off guard. No one had ever asked what she believed, only what the council expected. Before she could formulate a diplomatically acceptable non-answer, Corbin continued. Because when you were dancing earlier, Zylah, you seemed freer, more vibrant, even. It suited you. Their eyes met. Zylah felt an unfamiliar warmth spread through her biosystems, a subtle expansion of her internal energy. This was not the calculated intellectual intrigue she had been trained to inspire. This was something unexpected, a genuine connection forming amidst a web of lies. It unnerved her logical framework. He saw her, not just the mission, and that complicated everything. The following morning, Zylah woke feeling an unfamiliar resonance within her core processing units. Her meeting with Corbin was scheduled in an hour, a private discussion about potential joint research protocols. After last night's reception, their relationship had shifted a subtle, almost imperceptible realignment. The genuine connection they had shared during their dance lingered in her mind, complicating her mission parameters. The diplomatic compound's xenobotanical garden provided a secluded setting. Carefully arranged earth flora, their diverse scents unfamiliar, yet pleasantly stimulating. Corbin was already waiting when she arrived, his tall figure silhouetted against the rising sun. I trust you found last night's reception illuminating, he said as she approached, his voice warm, but his gaze held a familiar, probing intensity. It was highly educational, Zylah replied, settling onto a bench beside him. Your species has created remarkable advancements. Corbin nodded, but the warmth in his expression receded slightly. The game, it seemed, was still very much on. I have always believed that our creations reflect our truths, Ambassador. What we value, what we fear. He paused, studying her face. What truths, I wonder, would Vesperian genetic research reveal? Perhaps about a desperate need, or a fear of extinction. His words were precise, almost surgical. The question hit Zylah with the force of a physical blow. She maintained her composure, honed over cycles of diplomatic training, but her internal chronometer quickened its pace. I am uncertain as to the specific nature of your inquiry, Commander. I believe you are, Zylah. Corbin's voice remained calm, but his eyes had hardened, the hazel depths now piercing. Earth intelligence has been analyzing subtle energy signatures emanating from Vesper. We've correlated them with samples from recent Vesperian deep space exploratory vessels. We believe your species is facing a profound biological crisis. A genetic scourge, perhaps. Zylah felt the careful diplomatic construct she had built begin to unravel. He knew, not just part of it, all of it. If Earth has concerns about Vesperian internal matters, she managed, her voice holding steady despite the tremor in her hands, that should be addressed through established diplomatic channels, not through clandestine surveillance. Unlike sending a specially selected ambassador to subtly influence policy, or perhaps acquire highly sensitive genetic material through a carefully cultivated personal connection, Corbin interrupted, his tone still measured, but edged with profound disappointment. Was that the established channel, Zylah? Because for weeks, my own genetic research team has been playing along, letting your council think they were clever, letting you think you were. The use of her first name, intimate and personal, contrasted sharply with the devastating accusation. Zylah felt an unfamiliar heat rise on her golden skin, an emotional response, one Vesperian physiology rarely acknowledged. Shame. You comprehended my intent, she said softly, admitting defeat in their little game. From the onset, from months before you even launched, Zylah, Corbin confirmed, running a hand through his dark hair. What I do not fully comprehend is the rationale for the obfuscation. If your species is truly dying from a genetic scourge, why not simply negotiate for the help you need? Why the deception? Why the seduction? His gaze was direct, accusatory, yet held a flicker of hurt. The truth hovered on Zylah's lips. Elder Gorvin's profound apprehension regarding human unpredictability, their belief that humans responded more favorably to veiled manipulation and primal urges than to direct logical appeal, their willingness to utilize her as a refined instrument for genetic acquisition. "My people," she began, then stopped. "No, I will not seek refuge behind my people any longer. I was dispatched here with explicit directives to establish a connection, to utilize perceived intellectual compatibility, and yes, my physical attributes to influence you, to acquire your genetic material for a program aimed at combating our genetic scourge." The admission felt both terrible and liberating. The Council believes humans are fundamentally governed by their immediate impulses and emotional vulnerabilities, ruled by sexual desire. Corbin's expression remained unreadable, a mask of scientific detachment. "And what is your current belief, Ambassador?" "I believe I have encountered no being akin to you, Commander," Zylah admitted, the words emerging unbidden, outside of her programmed responses. "One who discerns deception, yet responds with inquisitive analysis rather than punitive action. One who values unvarnished truth, even when it presents a complex challenge. One who knew my mission, yet allowed me to approach." Something shifted in Corbin's eyes, the disappointment receding, replaced by something warmer, a quiet comprehension. He moved closer on the bench, close enough that she could feel the faint residual heat radiating from his body. "The truth is," he said quietly, his voice a low confession, "I have been experiencing a profound draw towards you since our first interaction. Not due to any neurostimulant or diplomatic tactic, but because of moments like last night, when you allowed your analytical guard to drop and displayed genuine curiosity about humanity's complexities. And because, despite your mission, you are undeniably captivating." Zylah's breath caught in her throat. This was not the predicted trajectory for a diplomatic encounter. The Council had prepared her for logical resistance, not for human emotional candor, not for this unexpected intimacy. "Corbin, His hand gently covered hers, warm against her cooler Vesperian skin. "I do not fully comprehend the implications of this, Ambassador. The diplomatic situation remains inherently complex. But whatever develops between us, it should proceed from a foundation of authenticity, not pre-programmed artifice." The sincerity in his voice dissolved something within her, a barrier to emotions the Vesperian Alliance had trained her to suppress for countless cycles. Without conscious thought, she leaned forward and pressed her lips to his. The kiss was tentative at first, an exploration of unfamiliar sensory input, then deepened as Corbin responded with an unexpected intensity. A profound warmth spread through Zylah's body, a resonance unlike anything she had ever experienced. This was not the calculated engagement she had been prepared to execute, but something far more dangerous. Genuine, unscripted desire, born from a revelation of truth. When they finally separated, Corbin's hazel eyes had darkened, a deep, warm hue. "That was not in any diplomatic protocol I am familiar with," he murmured, his voice slightly husky. "Nor mine," Zylah admitted, her voice unsteady, her internal systems attempting to recalibrate. "But I do not regret it." The hours that followed passed in a blur of discovery. They moved from the garden to Corbin's private quarters, where formal words gave way to intimate touch, to profound exploration. Their connection transcended different species, different cultures. It felt both inevitable and revolutionary, a bridge between worlds that political maneuverings alone could never construct. Afterward, lying in the quiet of his room, Zylah traced intricate patterns on Corbin's chest, marveling at the subtle differences and unexpected similarities between their anatomies. The Vesperian medical briefing had been accurate regarding general physiological compatibility. However, it had utterly failed to quantify the profound emotional impact such intimacy might have. "What precisely transpires now?" she asked softly, her voice still laced with an unfamiliar vulnerability. Corbin's fingers tangled in her shimmering dark blue hair. "Professionally, Ambassador, we have a profound diplomatic conundrum. Your species is facing a genetic scourge. My species possesses genetic resilience. The truth is out. He paused, pressing a kiss to her forehead. And personally, I believe we have initiated something neither of us anticipated. Something profoundly significant, something unequivocally worth exploring. Zylah nodded, a strange contentment settling over her, despite the looming complexities. For the first time in her long diplomatic career, she had acted upon an unbidden personal impulse, not a calculated strategic directive. The Elder Corbin and the Vesperian Council would be profoundly displeased. But in this moment, their projected disapproval seemed distant and inconsequential. "I should transmit a report to my superiors," she said reluctantly, the weight of her duty returning. "They anticipate an update regarding my progress in genetic acquisition." Corbin's expression grew serious. "What will be the nature of this report, Ambassador?" "Not the comprehensive truth." "Not yet," Zylah stated, sitting up. Her logical faculties slowly reasserted their dominance amidst the emotional resonance. "I require additional temporal parameters to formulate a diplomatic solution that optimizes the interests of both our species. If they believe I am still pursuing their original objective, they will grant me that necessary temporal allowance." "Deception in service of a greater truth," Corbin murmured, a faint smile playing on his lips. "That is a remarkably human philosophical paradox, Zylah." Zylah smiled, surprised by how natural the gesture felt. "Perhaps, Commander, you are a detrimental influence." As she dressed to return to her quarters, Zylah felt subtly altered, transformed in ways she could not yet fully articulate. What had commenced as a calculated mission had evolved into something authentic, something profoundly unscripted. Whatever consequences awaited her, she could not bring herself to regret the path that had led to this moment. 2 Earth weeks later, Zylah sat in her quarters, reviewing an intricate diplomatic proposal for joint genetic research. She and Corbin had been meeting regularly, officially to discuss interspecies cultural exchange programs, unofficially to continue exploring their unexpected connection. Each time they came together, Zylah found herself opening up more, sharing facets of her analytical mind and burgeoning emotional landscape that she had never revealed to anyone. A subtle, internal shift began. Small, almost imperceptible. She experienced moments of lightheadedness, heightened sensitivity to sense, a persistent, unusual fatigue that even her Vesperian regulators couldn't fully mitigate. She initially dismissed them as symptoms of environmental recalibration. Then came a strange, almost rhythmic pulsation deep within her core. The comm unit chimed, interrupting her thoughts. "Enter," she called, expecting Corbin. Instead, Envoy Kyer stepped inside, his golden features tense, a subtle tremor in his typically steady hands. "Ambassador," he stated, his voice a strained whisper, "I have received a priority communication from the Elder Corbin. They are profoundly displeased with the perceived lack of concrete genetic progress." Zylah maintained her composure, despite the sudden flutter of anxiety within her core. "I've been transmitting regular reports, Kyer. They are comprehensive." "Yes, Ambassador, but they lack specific, quantifiable results regarding the genetic acquisition. And there are anomalous energy signatures detected from Earth. They suspect unauthorized biological activity." Kyer lowered his voice further, his gaze darting nervously to the closed door. A junior Oracle member, he spoke of dispatching a Judgment Forger team to rectify the situation. The implied threat was clear. Judgment Forgers were not diplomats. They were the Council's instruments of absolute logical enforcement, utilized when more subtle approaches failed. "When Zylah asked, her mind racing through strategic contingencies, the internal pulsation growing stronger. 3 Earth cycles. They are dispatching the Inquisitor." Zylah nodded, dismissing Kyer with a curt gesture. Once alone, she pressed her fingers to her temples, fighting a sudden wave of dizziness. The pulsation intensified, a distinct presence. She knew, an impossible truth. Her personal comm unit chimed with Corbin's secure code. She accepted the call, his holographic image appearing before her. "Dinner tonight, Zylah?" he asked, his smile warming her despite her growing concerns. Yes, Corbin, but we need to engage in a critical discussion. Something significant is transpiring. Something biologically impossible. His expression grew serious, his smile fading. My quarters at 1900 hours. She nodded, ending the transmission. As she stood to prepare, another wave of dizziness washed over her, stronger this time. Zylah steadied herself against the wall, waiting for the sensation to dissipate. When it did not, and the strange internal pulsation became undeniable, she made a decision. She needed confirmation. The human medical facility was quiet when she arrived. Dr. Anya Sharma, the human physician assigned to non-terrestrial diplomats, greeted her with professional courtesy. Ambassador Kade, this is an unexpected visit. How may I be of assistance? I have been experiencing some unusual physiological anomalies. Dr. Sharma, Zylah explained, her voice carefully modulated. Dizziness, heightened sensory input, and a distinct internal pulsation. Sustained fatigue. Dr. Sharma nodded, gesturing to a diagnostic bed. Let's conduct a preliminary bioscan, Ambassador. It could be a simple, benign reaction to Earth's unique environment, or perhaps stress. Zylah lay back as the scanner hummed softly above her. Dr. Sharma studied the readings, her expression shifting from professional interest to profound surprise. Ambassador, she said carefully, her voice now tinged with an unfamiliar awe, are you aware of any intimate biological contact with humans during your assignment? Zylah felt her internal chronometer quicken its pace. The pulsation within her intensified. Why do you pose that query, Doctor? Because, Ambassador, Dr. Sharma continued, her voice barely above a whisper. According to these comprehensive readings, you are experiencing hormonal fluctuations and cellular proliferation consistent with early gestation. The room seemed to tilt. The carefully structured logic of Zylah's mind momentarily fractured. That is impossible. The metabolic regulator immunization package was meticulously designed based on comprehensive theoretical compatibility models. It prevents cross-species biological anomaly. And yet, Ambassador, Dr. Sharma finished, her expression softening, a profound wonder in her eyes. Theory and biological reality do not always align with perfect precision. The scan is unambiguous. You are approximately 2 Earth weeks into a pregnancy, and what appears to be developing is human Vesperian hybrid. Dr. Sharma paused, her gaze locking with Zylah's. But there's more. The internal pulsation you described, it's not just a fetal heartbeat. The child, it's generating a unique genetic signature, an active molecular resonance. It suggests an unprecedented ability to reconstruct and heal DNA at a fundamental level. Zylah sat up slowly, her hand instinctively moving to her lower abdomen, a gesture utterly alien to her trained composure. A living cure, the true answer to Vesper's scourge. How is this biologically possible? I would require far more extensive testing to provide a definitive hypothesis, Dr. Sharma admitted, her voice filled with a scientist's excitement. However, my preliminary assessment suggests that human reproductive cellular structures are far more adaptable, more spontaneously resonant than your scientists may have anticipated. They have, in essence, found a way to bridge the genetic gap. Your child is a miracle of evolution. A key. Dr. Sharma's gaze met Zylah's, filled with empathy and professional awe. I understand this must be profoundly disorienting and exhilarating. Disorienting did not begin to quantify the implications. Zylah's mind raced through the cascading effects. Personal, diplomatic, biological, societal. Is the developing entity healthy? All current indications suggest normal cellular development. Ambassador, despite this unprecedented phenomenon, Dr. Sharma assured her, though we are unequivocally operating in uncharted biological territory, I would recommend rigorous, consistent monitoring. Dr. Sharma hesitated. Will you be informing the father in your council? This genetic signature, it's powerful. It won't stay secret long. Yes, Zylah said finally, her voice imbued with a newfound resolve. He requires this information. And my counsel, they will discover it soon enough. When she arrived at Corbin's quarters that evening, her heart pounded a syncopated rhythm against her ribs. He greeted her with a kiss, momentarily pushing aside her burgeoning anxiety. "You appear troubled, Zylah," he said, leading her inside. "What has transpired?" Zylah took a deep, steadying breath. Two distinct phenomena, Corbin, both profoundly significant. Firstly, Elder Corbin sent a priority communication. They are profoundly displeased with my genetic acquisition reports, and they've detected anomalous energy signatures from Earth. Corbin's expression hardened, his military training evident in his immediate shift to tactical assessment. Anomalous signatures? My research team has been detecting similar fluctuations. From what source? They suspect unauthorized biological activity, Zylah continued, her voice low. Corbin spoke of dispatching a judgment forger team to rectify the situation, to cleanse what they perceive as uncontrolled genetic divergence. Corbin's jaw tightened. Judgment forgers? That's a direct threat. They don't rectify, they exterminate. When do they arrive? 3 Earth cycles. The Inquisitor is already calculating its hyperspace trajectory. Zylah's gaze met his, unwavering. They are authorized for my termination or forced extraction and containment if deemed necessary. They believe I am a traitor and a source of contamination. That will not occur, Corbin stated firmly, taking her hand, his grip reassuring, his focus sharpened. We will require comprehensive preparation. What is the estimated force composition? A small, elite detachment, typically for operatives. Commander Jorek will lead them. Zylah paused, the true weight of her revelation settling. That is the first phenomenon. Corbin's eyes, deep blue and assessing, locked onto hers. What is the second, Zylah? The biologically impossible one you mentioned? Zylah met his gaze, searching for the precise linguistic construct. I engaged with your medical facility today. I have been experiencing anomalous physiological symptoms. Dr. Sharma conducted extensive bioscans. She took another breath, gathering her courage, the gravity of the revelation settling heavily upon her. Corbin, I am gestating. His expression froze. His hazel eyes widened, comprehension slowly dawning. But the Vesperian briefings indicated an absolute biological incompatibility, complete genetic isolation. They were erroneous, Zylah whispered, watching his face. Fear and hope warred within her. Human biology, it appears, is far more adaptively resonant than my people's scientific models anticipated. It is biologically unprecedented. No human Vesperian hybrid has ever been conceived. Corbin was silent for a long moment, processing the impossible data. Then, to Zylah's profound surprise, a slow, wonder-filled smile spread across his face. We have created something impossible, he said softly, reaching out to place his hand gently, reverently, on her lower abdomen. Something miraculous? Relief flooded through her, a warmth more potent than any Vesperian neurostimulant. You are not displeased? Displeased? No. Surprised? Absolutely. Overwhelmed? Definitely. His eyes met hers, filled with profound joy, mixed with fierce protectiveness. Zylah, what we have discovered together is already beyond anything I expected. This child, our child, is simply further empirical proof that our species are destined to connect, not to contend. Tears, another novel and bewildering experience, welled in Zylah's emerald eyes. The elder Corbin will not perceive it thusly, Zylah warned, her voice thick with emotion. A hybrid child would fundamentally undermine their narrative regarding human biological inferiority. They will desire to terminate the gestation, to conduct invasive analysis as a mere specimen, as a mutation that threatens their pure lineage. Corbin's expression darkened, a fierce protectiveness entering his gaze. That will not occur either. He pulled her close, his embrace strong and resolute. We have 3 Earth cycles to strategize this. the Judgment Forger team, the gestation, and the unique energy signature Dr. Sharma detected. We will confront it together. As Zylah rested against his chest, listening to his steady, rhythmic heartbeat, she marveled at human resilience. Where a Vesperian might logically calculate probabilities and retreat from unfavorable scenarios, Corbin immediately shifted to protection, to problem-solving, to confronting challenges head-on. "I have never encountered a being such as yourself," she whispered, echoing her words from weeks earlier, but now imbued with a new, profound depth of meaning. "Likewise, Ambassador," he murmured into her shimmering hair. "And now, it appears we are about to produce a child who is the first of its kind. A living bridge, Zylah. A key. Seems fitting." That night, as they lay together, meticulously planning their response to the impending confrontation, Zylah realized how completely her mission had transformed. She had been dispatched to subtly manipulate, to acquire genetic material through seduction. Instead, she had discovered genuine connection. She had been instructed to save her species through science, and instead, she found herself creating new life, life that pulsed with a unique genetic signature, a resonant promise. Whatever transpired when the Inquisitor arrived, one truth was immutable. She would protect this unexpected gift, this impossible child growing within her. Not for the Vesperian Alliance, not even solely for Corbin, but for herself and for the new future they were creating together. "This is unprecedented," Admiral Valen Kale stated, leaning back in his holographic chair. His expression, a mix of awe and profound trepidation, mirrored the mood in the room. "Absolutely unprecedented, Commander Hayes." Corbin stood firm, hands clasped behind his back in military posture. "With all due respect, Admiral, I believe it is our singular path forward." The emergency meeting had been convened in the secure, subterranean conference room of Earth's diplomatic nexus. Present were Admiral Kale, head of Earth's interstellar fleet, Dr. Anya Sharma, xenobiological expert, and Secretary General Ilara Vance of the United Galactic Alliance. Zylah sat beside Corbin, acutely aware of the intense scrutiny directed at her golden skin and the subtle, yet perceptible, swell of her abdomen beneath her retailored diplomatic attire. Dr. Sharma had already presented her startling medical findings, the impossible pregnancy, and the child's unique, active genetic resonance. "Let me ascertain the precise parameters of this proposal," Admiral Kale continued, his gaze fixed on Zylah. "You are advocating that we announce our top genetic researcher is gestating a child with a Vesperian ambassador, a child that your own medical experts, Ambassador, claimed was biologically impossible, and that this revelation should serve as leverage in diplomatic negotiations with a dying species." "Not leverage, Admiral," Zylah corrected gently, her voice steady and clear despite her internal tremor. "A symbol, empirical proof that our species can converge and create something entirely new, a living cure, rather than merely contending over finite resources. My child's genetic signature is the active solution to Vesper's genetic scourge." Secretary General Vance studied Zylah thoughtfully, her fingers steepled beneath her chin. "And you believe your elder Corbin and the Vesperian Council will respond favorably to this revelation? To a hybrid child carrying such profound implications for their pure lineage?" "Initially, no," Zylah admitted, her logical assessment unflinching. "They will experience profound shock, possibly overt hostility. However, public opinion on Vesper, particularly within the scientific academies and among the suffering populace, will compel their recalculation. Our people value empirical scientific advancement above all else. This gestation represents an evolutionary leap, a biological singularity no one believed achievable. It is the only way to reverse the scourge." Dr. Sharma cleared her throat, adjusting her spectacles. "From a purely biological perspective, this phenomenon is truly unprecedented. The developing entity appears healthy, its cellular structures proliferating normally despite the profound genetic disparities. Its unique molecular resonance, as Ambassador Kade mentioned, actively interacts with compromised Vesperian genetic sequences. It empirically suggests our species are far more biologically compatible and complementary than either side's xenobiological models ever indicated. Which is precisely why we must control the narrative, Corbin added, his voice firm. The Vesperian Judgment Forger team arrives in less than 2 Earth cycles. If they extract Ambassador Kade by force, this child becomes a mere specimen for invasive study, a tool for destruction, not a beacon of future cooperation or cure. Sarah Flynn, who had been quietly taking notes, looked up. Commander, Ambassador, what exactly are you proposing then? If the child is the key to their cure, how do we use that without risking the child's safety? We propose a joint interspecies genetic restoration initiative, Zylah stated, outlining the detailed proposal she and Corbin had meticulously crafted. Human genetic expertise, combined with Vesperian biological desperation. The child's unique resonant ability would be studied under joint protective protocols. Data would be shared. A cure developed cooperatively. This child is the ultimate bridge. Admiral Kale snorted, a sound of skepticism. Just like that, centuries of potential interspecies conflict and a planet-wide plague, resolved by one unexpected gestation and a child with magical healing powers. Not magical, Admiral, Corbin corrected, his voice resonating with conviction, biological, and not resolved, but provided with a fundamentally new framework. Humans have historically excelled at discovering common ground with those profoundly different from ourselves. It is, arguably, our greatest adaptive strength. And now, we have the ultimate common ground, a shared future born of our mutual existence. Secretary General Vance tapped her fingers thoughtfully on the table, her gaze shifting between Corbin and Zylah. And if the Elder Corbin and the Council reject this proposal, if Commander Jorek attempts to retrieve Ambassador Kade and the child by force, then Earth demonstrates another of its strengths, Corbin stated firmly, his eyes meeting the Secretary General's without flinching, protecting those who seek sanctuary here, protecting the future of something truly new. We will meet force with force, Secretary General. The galaxy will then see who truly desires survival and cooperation, and who clings to a doomed purity. A heavy, resolute silence descended upon the room. Finally, Secretary General Vance nodded slowly. Prepare your presentation, Commander Hayes. You will address the emergency session of the Interspecies Council tomorrow, prior to the Inquisitor's arrival. Ambassador Kade, she continued, her gaze fixed on the Vesperian. Are you prepared to publicly disavow your government's previous directives if necessary? To risk everything for this audacious plan and for the child? Zylah placed a protective hand over her still subtly rounded abdomen, feeling the steady, miraculous pulse within. This child, it alters every calculation. My allegiance now resides with its future. A future I believe is inextricably linked with humanity's compassion and Vesper survival. As they left the meeting, Corbin squeezed Zylah's hand. You were magnificent in there, Ambassador. Convincing, logical, and profoundly brave. I experienced profound apprehension, she admitted, her voice a low murmur. On Vesper, directly challenging the Elder Corbin thusly would result in immediate termination, not mere exile. On Earth, it appears to be a customary, albeit dramatic, form of negotiation. Corbin smiled, a genuine, warm expression. Gulme, we have a presentation to meticulously prepare. The fate of 2 species and a new one depends on it. They worked through the night in Corbin's quarters, refining their proposal. It balanced scientific logic with diplomatic urgency and a plea for empathy. As dawn broke, painting the city skyline in hues of amber and rose, Zylah stood by the panoramic window, watching Earth's sun illuminate the diplomatic compound. It is beautiful, she murmured, her voice soft. The manner in which your star illuminates everything gradually, not with immediate, stark brilliance. Corbin came to stand behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. Experiencing second thoughts, Zylah? No, Corbin. Merely appreciating the profound differences. On Vesper, our binary stars produce abrupt, instantaneous daybreak. Here, there's this gentle, prolonged transition phase, like what we are attempting to create diplomatically. Not sudden, disruptive change, but a gradual illumination. A shared sunrise. Their moment of peace was abruptly shattered by an alert from the compound security system. Commander Hayes, the AI, announced, its synthesized voice devoid of emotion. The Vesperian vessel Inquisitor has entered Earth orbit ahead of schedule. They are deploying a shuttle, requesting immediate docking clearance. Commander Jorik is on board. Corbin's posture stiffened, his embrace tightening around Zylah. They are early, attempting to catch us unprepared. A characteristic judgment forger tactic. They want to prevent this presentation. Indeed, Zylah confirmed, her heart racing a frantic rhythm against her ribs. We must accelerate our timeline. The council meeting must begin immediately. The emergency session of the Interspecies Council had been reconvened with unprecedented haste. Representatives from Earth's allied species, the Stoic Xylosians, the Mercurial Viridians, and the enigmatic Talidians, gathered in the Grand Chamber. At its heart, the communication platform shimmered, awaiting the Vesperian Council's holographic projection. As Corbin and Zylah prepared to enter, Sarah Flynn approached, her face tight with urgency. Commander, Ambassador, the Inquisitor's shuttle has docked. For Judgment Forger operatives are being escorted here now. Commander Jorik leads them. Corbin's jaw tightened. Perfect temporal synchronization. They're here to stop us. The chamber fell silent as they entered. Zylah, in her formal Vesperian diplomatic attire, subtly modified to accommodate her changing form, walked with her head held high. A low murmur rippled through the assembled delegates. Corbin, in his full military dress uniform, maintained a protective position at her side. The holographic projector activated, revealing the 7 stern faces of the Vesperian Council. Elder Gorvin's cold eyes immediately fixed on Zylah. Ambassador Kade, he thundered, his voice resonating through the chamber. You were instructed to report directly to the Judgment Forger team upon their arrival. Instead, you defy the Council. With all due respect, Elder, Zylah replied, her voice steady despite the rapid cadence of her internal chronometer. I formally requested this emergency session to present crucial new biological and diplomatic developments. Developments vital to Vesper's very survival. What developments could possibly? Elder Gorvin began, his voice edged with fury. But he stopped abruptly. The chamber doors hissed open again, admitting the 4 Vesperian Judgment Forger operatives. Their golden skin, usually vibrant, seemed stark against their dark, unadorned, sleek battle uniforms. Their expressions were impassive, devoid of emotion, as they took up strategic positions at the back of the room. Commander Jorik, grim and powerfully built, his scarred brow furrowed, led them, his gaze locking on Zylah with predatory intensity. Secretary General Elara Vance rose from her seat, her gaze sweeping across the diverse assembly. Esteemed representatives, we are convened not only to address the urgent matter of the Vesperian Genetic Scourge, but also to deliberate upon an unprecedented biological development with profound, far-reaching galactic implications. She nodded to Corbin, who stepped forward. Distinguished council members, allies, and friends, Corbin began, his voice clear and resolute. What I am about to share will fundamentally challenge every preconceived notion regarding our species' biological compatibility and the very nature of Vesper's affliction. As he outlined their proposal, Zylah observed the Vesperian Council. Their initial dismissiveness gradually gave way to chilling stillness, then to palpable shock as Corbin revealed the full extent of the gestation, confirmed by Dr. Sharma's detailed medical data, projected in intricate holographic overlays for all to observe. The child's unique, active genetic resonance shimmered on the main screen. This child, Corbin concluded, his voice ringing with conviction, represents not a diplomatic failure, but an evolutionary success. It is not a reason for conflict, but an unparalleled opportunity for unprecedented cooperation. Its unique genetic signature, as proven by Dr. Sharma's analysis, holds the living cure to the genetic scourge. Elder Corbin's face, projected large in the chamber, hardened. His golden skin paled further. This is biologically impossible. Our xenobiological experts assured absolute incompatibility. This is a mutation. Your experts were erroneous, Elder. Zylah interrupted, stepping forward, her gaze firm, unwavering. Her voice resonated with a new, fierce confidence. Just as the Council has been erroneous in its fundamental assessment of humanity. They are not primitive beings governed merely by primal urges. They are resilient, innovative, and capable of profound, genuine connection. Qualities our own people once valued. Elder, before we retreated into cold, calculating logic and the fear of genetic purity. A murmur rippled through the chamber, a wave of unease, then curiosity. Commander Jorik shifted imperceptibly, his impassive facade momentarily flickering. What Ambassador Kade and I propose, Corbin continued, his voice gaining momentum, is a new paradigm for human-Vesperian relations, a joint genetic restoration initiative. Joint research to combat the scourge. Shared advanced research facilities. Comprehensive cultural exchange. And the formal recognition of our child as a citizen of both worlds. The first of what we profoundly hope will be many such living bridges between our species. A testament to a combined future, not a divided past. The chamber erupted in a cacophony of discussion. Through the rising commotion, Zylah's emerald eyes met the projection of Elder Rylos. The younger elder's ethereal form seemed to solidify, showing a fleeting, almost tangible expression, curiosity, perhaps even a nascent form of hope. The Vesperian Council will require additional temporal parameters to consider these unexpected developments, Elder Rylos stated, his individual voice, rarely heard, cutting through the general discourse with unexpected authority. We formally request a recess to engage in private consultation. As the holographic projection faded, Corbin turned to Zylah, a faint, relieved smile playing on his lips. First round concluded, Ambassador. Now, we await their calculation. Zylah nodded, her hand finding his, her fingers intertwining. The faint, rhythmic pulse of her child within her seemed to strengthen, a silent affirmation. Whatever logical challenges, whatever profound uncertainties came next, they would confront it together, just as their child would one day inherit a universe forever altered by its very existence. The tension in the interspecies council chamber was a palpable force as the holographic projection of the Vesperian Council flickered back into existence. The 3-hour recess felt interminable to Zylah, who had spent it pacing a private antechamber with Corbin, meticulously discussing contingency plans should the council reject their radical proposal. Now, as the familiar, cold presence of the Vesperian leadership filled the vast space, Zylah instinctively placed a protective hand over her abdomen, feeling the steady, rhythmic pulse of her child. Corbin stood beside her, his posture straight and resolute. After extensive deliberation, Elder Corbin began, his voice cold and unwavering. The council has reached a decisive resolution regarding Ambassador Kade's situation. The chamber fell silent. Even the Judgment Forger operatives at the back seemed to hold their breath. Ambassador Kade has violated established protocol, fundamentally deviated from her mission parameters, and engaged in unauthorized genetic experimentation. Corbin continued, his tone sharp, accusatory. By Vesperian law, she should be immediately recalled, and the resulting hybrid specimen contained for rigorous, invasive study. Corbin's hand found Zylah's, squeezing it reassuringly despite the grim pronouncement. However, a distinct, individual voice interrupted, clearer and more resonant than before. Elder Rylos stepped forward in the holographic projection, his younger face a stark contrast to Corbin's weathered features. The council is not unanimous in this assessment. What Ambassador Kade has achieved, however, spontaneously, represents the most profound xenobiological breakthrough in Vesperian history. This living cure is a phenomenon beyond our current understanding. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Elder Gorvin's projection hardened, his voice a low, discordant hum. The minority opinion is noted, but ultimately irrelevant. The council's majority has rendered its definitive judgment. With all due respect, Elder, Rylos countered, his voice steady and reasoned, I have taken the calculated liberty of consulting the Vesperian Science Academy. Their preliminary assessment of the comprehensive medical data suggests this hybrid gestation could unlock unprecedented genetic advances that would profoundly benefit both our species. He gestured, and new holographic data appeared. Complex genetic sequences, shimmering with blue and green light, highlighting the intricate, successful merger of human and Vesperian DNA. Furthermore, he continued, I have initiated a public information release regarding this development on Vesper Prime. The societal response has been overwhelming. Our people are scientifically fascinated, Elder. They are questioning why we have maintained such profound logical distance from humanity, when such remarkable compatibility empirically exists. Gorvin's projection seemed to flicker with a transient surge of fury. You possessed no such authority. I possessed every authority as the appointed science liaison, Rylos replied calmly, his projection radiating an unexpected resolve. And the public response has been one of profound scientific curiosity. Our people are questioning, Elder, why we have maintained such isolation from species with whom such profound biological solutions exist. Secretary General Alara Vance leaned forward, her gaze intent. What precisely are you proposing, Elder Rylos? A calculated compromise, Rylos replied. Ambassador Kade remains on Earth as our primary diplomatic representative. The Joint Genetic Restoration Initiative proceeds as proposed, and a comprehensive scientific exchange program is immediately established to meticulously study this unprecedented gestation and its unique abilities, with full respect for the parent's autonomy and the developing entity's future rights. Then, Commander Jorik, the leader of the Judgment Forger operatives, stepped forward unexpectedly, his voice devoid of his usual impassiveness. Elder Gorvin, if I may provide a direct, tactical assessment. Gorvin waved a dismissive hand. State your observation, Commander Jorik. Having observed the situation firsthand, Elder, Jorik stated, his voice precise and unyielding, I must report that forced extraction of Ambassador Kade and the child would, with a high degree of probability, result in a significant diplomatic incident and possible armed conflict with United Galactic Alliance forces. Their readiness is unequivocal. My team unequivocally recommends accepting the compromise proposed by the science liaison. The genetic data alone justifies the strategic shift. Gorvin's projection seemed to distort with fury. You overstep your tactical mandate, Commander. I fulfill my duty to provide unvarnished tactical assessment, Elder, Jorik replied evenly. And my assessment is that humans protect their own. That now, unequivocally, includes Ambassador Kade and the gestating entity. Its unique genetic signature is too valuable to risk in an uncalculated engagement. Corbin stepped forward, his gaze sweeping across the Vesperian projections. Elder Gorvin, Elder Rylos, esteemed representatives, this situation does not necessitate conflict. What is transpiring here is something novel, yes, but also something ancient. Two beings from fundamentally different worlds discovering common ground, and in doing so, creating a future together. His voice, steady and sincere, resonated throughout the chamber. Humans possess a long, turbulent history of fearing the unknown, just as your people exhibit a preference for controlled, predictable outcomes. But our greatest advancements have invariably occurred when we embrace new possibilities, when we courageously move forward, instead of retreating into established paradigms. Zylah moved to stand beside him, her hand finding his. The mission I was initially assigned, Elder, was based upon a fundamental misinterpretation of humanity. They're not primitive beings governed merely by primal urges. They are resilient, innovative, and capable of profound, genuine connection. Qualities our own people once valued. Elder, before we retreated into cold, calculating logic and the fear of genetic purity. She looked at Corbin, her emerald eyes meeting his steady hazel gaze. I was dispatched to logically manipulate and to acquire. Instead, I discovered something I never comprehended I was lacking. Genuine, unquantifiable connection. And a child who is the living answer to our genetic scourge. The chamber fell silent as her words hung in the air. A profound, unsettling truth. Even Elder Corbin's primary projection seemed momentarily at a loss for a logical response. Finally, Secretary General Alara Vance spoke, her voice measured but firm. I believe we possess an extraordinary opportunity here, not merely for a pragmatic diplomatic compromise, but for the genesis of a true alliance. Elder Rylos's proposal offers a progressive pathway forward that honors the vital interests of both our peoples, while simultaneously creating something fundamentally new. She turned to the Vesperian projection. The United Galactic Alliance is prepared to formally sign an immediate agreement based upon these terms, with the explicit understanding that Ambassador Kade and Commander Hayes' child will be recognized as a citizen of both worlds. A living bridge between our species. A shared future. Elder Corbin's form seemed to coalesce, then visibly waver. As he surveyed the shifting, resonating forms of the other council members, he seemed to acknowledge the undeniable, evolving tide of consensus. The Vesperian Council, he paused, his synchronized voices struggling, will accept these terms, pending formal documentation and strict oversight protocols. The tension in the room broke like a physical wave. Representatives from Earth's allied species began to engage in animated discussion regarding the profound implications. The Judgment Forger operatives subtly relaxed their rigid postures, and Zylah felt something she had never experienced in any diplomatic negotiation before, a profound sense of hope and vindication. As the formal proceedings concluded, Commander Jorek approached Zylah and Corbin. "Ambassador, Commander," he said, with a formal, almost respectful nod. "My team will remain on Earth as your designated security detail by direct order of Elder Rylos. Not all Vesperian factions will embrace this development immediately." "Security detail?" Corbin questioned, his brow furrowed. "Elder Rylos believes your nascent family's safety is paramount to the successful establishment of this new alliance, and to understanding the child's full genetic potential." Family. The word resonated in Zylah's mind, a concept previously devoid of direct personal meaning. As Jorek departed, Zylah turned to Corbin, who was already looking at her with a smile that made her internal chronometer race, just as it had the first time they had danced. "We achieved it," she whispered. "You achieved it, Zylah," he corrected, taking her hands in his. "You stood against your entire civilization for what you perceived as truth. For survival. For our child." "I possessed compelling motivation," Zylah replied, glancing down her abdomen. The steady, miraculous pulse of her child resonated beneath her palm. Corbin's expression grew serious, a profound warmth entering his hazel eyes. "Speaking of which," he knelt before her, still holding her hands, "I have been researching human traditions, and there is one that seems profoundly appropriate now." Zylah's emerald eyes widened as he continued. "Zylah, of the Vesperian Alliance, would you do me the profound honor of becoming my wife? Not for diplomacy, not for political expediency, but because I am profoundly connected to you, and I desire to construct a shared life with you and our child. To build a new future together." Tears, still a novel and bewildering experience, welled in Zylah's eyes, blurring her vision. "Yes," she said simply, the word resonating with an unquantifiable truth. "Though I should logically inform you, Corbin, I possess no pre-programmed protocols for navigating the complexities of being a human wife." Corbin laughed, a rich, genuine sound, rising to embrace her. That is perfectly ideal, Zylah, because I possess no pre-programmed protocol for being married to a Vesperian ambassador with a literal biological miracle in her belly. We will ascertain the path forward together. 6 Earth cycles later, Zylah stood once again before the Vesperian Council. But this time, the circumstances could not have been more profoundly different. Her golden skin glowed with health, her rounded abdomen prominently displayed in a specially designed, elegantly flowing formal gown. Corbin stood proudly at her side as they presented the first quarterly report on the Joint Genetic Restoration Initiative, which had already exceeded all projected research and therapeutic expectations. Elder Rylos, now significantly elevated to a senior position within the Council following Elder Corbin's formal retirement, resonated with clear approval. Ambassador Kade, Commander Hayes, his voice was now a steady, harmonious hum. The Vesperian Council commends your collaborative efforts. The Alliance has empirically proven to be far more beneficial than initially anticipated. The Genetic Scourge shows signs of reversal on Vesper Prime. Thank you, Elder, Zylah replied, her voice filled with a subtle, resonant pride. The Joint Medical Research Team, led by Dr. Sharma, also reports significant breakthroughs in cross-species genetic compatibility. Our son's unique genetic structure and its constant resonant output has provided the key to developing therapeutic solutions for various biological maladies in both our species, beyond the scourge itself. Remarkable, the senior elder stated, a genuine, almost tangible sense of wonder in his resonant voice. And the child's development? Perfectly healthy, Elder Corbin answered, his hand resting gently on Zylah's lower back, a gesture of profound affection. A son, according to the latest bioscans. Strong-willed already. He kicks with the precise force of a human marine, and his genetic resonance is becoming more stable, more powerful. The Vesperian Council's projections shifted subtly. Some members still seemed uncomfortable with such overt displays of emotional connection, while others were clearly fascinated by this intimate glimpse into an experience none of them had shared. As they concluded their presentation and prepared to return to Earth, Zylah paused to look out at the Vesperian capital through the council chamber's vast, crystalline windows. The binary suns cast dual shadows across the gleaming city, a place that had once been her entire universe, but now felt like just one vital chapter in a much larger, unfolding narrative. Experiencing second thoughts, Zylah? Corbin asked quietly, his hand finding hers. Zylah shook her head, taking his hand and placing it where their son was currently kicking with enthusiastic energy. No, Corbin, merely appreciating the incredible distance we have traversed. When they dispatched me to logically influence you, to acquire genetic material through seduction, I never conceived that you would ultimately be the one to, paradoxically, relogic my entire existence. And that we would ultimately create something neither of our worlds believed was empirically possible. Corbin finished with a profound smile. A new beginning, Zylah corrected, leaning into his warm embrace. As they walked together toward the transport that would take them home to Earth, Zylah reflected on the mission that had irrevocably altered everything. She had been dispatched to subtly manipulate a human male and acquire genetic material through seduction. Instead, she had discovered an unquantifiable connection, created new life, and helped forge an alliance that was expanding both their civilizations in ways no one, least of all the logical Vesperian Council, could have ever predicted. Gestating a hybrid child had not been part of her initial mission parameters, but it had become the most profound, most illuminating journey of her existence, leading to the birth of a child who was not just a symbol, but a living cure, a key, and a literal bridge between worlds.